The morning alarm buzzed softly in Admiral Kane's quarters aboard the New Terra Defense Station. He stretched and looked out the massive window at the peaceful blue planet below. Ships moved slowly between the orbital docks, carrying food and supplies to the outer colonies. It was just another quiet day in the year 7025. Kane had been in the military for 30 years, but he had never seen real war. Nobody had. The last human conflict ended 5,000 years ago, back in 2025. Now, war was just something people read about in history books. The Terran Defense Corps existed mainly to help with mining operations and rescue lost ships. "Admiral, the morning reports are ready," said Lieutenant Tom Miller, walking into Kane's office with a cup of coffee and a datapad. Kane smiled and took the coffee. "Anything interesting happening in our quiet corner of space?" "Same as always, sir. 3 cargo ships arrived from the farming worlds. The mining station at Asteroid Belt 7 needs some equipment repairs. And the exploration ship Horizon found another empty solar system near the rim." Kane nodded. It was the same peaceful routine they had followed for decades. The human race had spread across 847 star systems, and every single one was calm and safe. Crime was almost zero. Conflicts were solved by talking, not fighting. It was paradise. "Oh, and sir," Miller added, "President Voss wants to have a video call with all sector commanders next week. Something about celebrating the 5,000th anniversary of the Great Peace Accord." Kane set down his coffee and picked up the datapad. The Great Peace Accord was humanity's proudest achievement. After thousands of years of wars, humans had finally learned to live without violence. They had beaten hunger, disease, and hatred. Children grew up never knowing fear. "That sounds nice," Kane said. "Schedule it for—" Suddenly, alarms began screaming throughout the station. Red lights flashed on every wall. Kane had never heard these alarms before. They were the emergency battle alerts that nobody had used in centuries. "Admiral!" shouted Sergeant Lisa Grant, running into the office. "Sir, you need to see this right now." Kane and Miller rushed to the command center. Officers were staring at their screens with shock and confusion. On the main display, massive shapes were appearing at the edge of human space. "What am I looking at?" Kane asked. "Unknown ships, sir," said Grant. "They just appeared out of nowhere. Our sensors have never seen anything like them." The ships were enormous, each one the size of a small city. They were dark and angular, covered with weapon ports and armor plating. There were hundreds of them arranged in perfect military formations. "Are they human ships?" Miller asked. "Maybe from one of the outer colonies." Kane shook his head. "No, human has built warships like that in 5,000 years. We don't even know how to make them anymore." A communication signal came through the speakers. The voice was cold and mechanical, speaking perfect English, but with a strange accent. "Humans of the Terran Federation. I am Supreme Commander Vex of the Dominion Empire. We have watched your species for many centuries. You have grown weak and soft in your peace. Your time of ease is over." The command center fell silent. Everyone stared at the screen showing the alien fleet. "You will surrender all your worlds to Dominion rule," the voice continued. "Those who resist will be destroyed. You have 1 standard day to respond. Choose wisely." The transmission ended. For a moment, nobody spoke. "Sir," Grant said quietly, "what do we do? We don't have weapons that can fight ships like that." Kane looked around the command center. These people were good at their jobs, but they were peacekeepers, not warriors. Their ships carried rescue equipment and mining tools, not weapons. The most dangerous thing on the entire station was probably the kitchen knives in the cafeteria. "Get me President Voss immediately," Kane ordered. "And contact all fleet commanders. We need to—" The alarms screamed again. This time, the warnings were different. These were attack alerts. "Admiral!" shouted an officer at the sensor station. "The alien fleet is moving. They're heading for Colony World 7. On the screen, they watched the dark ships accelerate toward one of humanity's peaceful farming worlds. Colony World 7 had 2 million people living there. They had no defenses, no weapons, no way to protect themselves. "How long until they reach the colony?" Kane asked. "At their current speed, 4 hours, sir." Kane felt sick. 4 hours, and 2 million innocent people would face an alien military that looked like it could destroy planets. Send a message to Colony World 7, he ordered. Tell them to evacuate immediately. Get everyone to the escape ships. Sir, Miller said, even if everyone gets to the ships, where can they go? The aliens can probably catch them easily. Kane didn't have an answer. Humanity had spent 5,000 years learning to live in peace. They had forgotten how to fight, how to defend themselves, how to survive when someone wanted to hurt them. For the next 4 hours, they watched helplessly as the alien fleet approached Colony World 7. Kane sent every available ship to help with the evacuation, but there weren't enough. Most human vessels were slow cargo ships or small exploration craft. When the aliens reached the colony, the attack was swift and brutal. Bright beams of energy shot down from their ships, destroying buildings, spaceports, and anything that moved. The evacuation ships that tried to escape were targeted first. None of them got away. In 6 hours, Colony World 7 was gone. 2 million people had lived there that morning. Now there was nothing but burning ruins and empty space. The command center was quiet, except for the soft beeping of computers. Kane stared at the screen showing where the colony used to be. He felt something he had never experienced before, a deep, burning anger that seemed to come from somewhere ancient inside him. Admiral, Grant said softly, they're moving to the next system. Colony World 12 has 5 million people. Kane closed his eyes. Somewhere in the back of his mind, he could almost hear the voices of his ancestors, humans who had fought and died to protect what they loved. For 5,000 years, that fighting spirit had been sleeping. But now, with innocent people dying and his species facing extinction, something old and powerful was starting to wake up. Contact General Shaw. On Earth, Kane said. Tell him we need to talk about war. Miller looked confused. Sir, we don't know anything about war. It's been 5,000 years since about then. We better learn fast, Kane said, still staring at the empty space where a world used to be. Because they just made the biggest mistake in galactic history. What mistake, sir? Kane turned to face his officers. In his eyes was something they had never seen before, something dangerous and determined. They attacked humans who had something to protect. The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been going for 12 hours straight. President Maria Voss sat at the head of the massive table, looking at the faces of humanity's leaders. Some were angry, some were scared, and many looked completely lost. We have to surrender, said Council Member David Park from the Agricultural Worlds. We can't fight them. Look what happened to Colony World 7 and Colony World 12. They destroyed both planets in one day. Surrender means slavery, replied Council Member Ana Torres from the industrial sectors. Did you hear their message? They want to rule us, not make peace with us. Admiral Kane stood up from his chair. He had traveled to Earth as fast as possible after the first attacks. His uniform was wrinkled and his eyes were red from lack of sleep. Council members, Kane said. I've been watching these aliens for 3 days now. They've destroyed 4 of our worlds and killed over 10 million people. They're not going to stop until they control everything we have. President Voss nodded. Admiral Kane is right. But the question remains, what can we do? Our ships have mining lasers and rescue equipment. They have weapons that can destroy planets. We run, said Park. We take our people and find new worlds far away from here. Where? Asked Torres. They have ships faster than ours. They'll catch us wherever we go. An old man at the end of the table slowly stood up. General Robert Shaw was 90 years old and had spent his entire life studying military history. Most people thought his job was useless, but he was the only person alive who really understood warfare. There is another option, Shaw said in his quiet voice. We fight. Several council members laughed. Fight with what? Asked Park. We don't have weapons, we don't have soldiers. We don't even know how to make war. Shaw walked to the center of the room. Despite his age, his back was straight and his voice was strong. That's not entirely true. We have something these aliens don't expect. What's that? Asked President Voss. History, Shaw replied. 5,000 years of human military knowledge stored in the archives of old Earth. Battle plans, weapon designs, strategies that our ancestors used to conquer this entire planet. Kane leaned forward. You're talking about ancient warfare. Swords and arrows and gunpowder. These aliens have space weapons and energy shields. Yes, but the principles remain the same, Shaw said. Humans didn't become peaceful because we were weak. We became peaceful because we were too good at war. We nearly destroyed ourselves with our own weapons. He activated a holographic display that showed images from Earth's violent past. Pictures of tanks, fighter jets, nuclear explosions, and armies marching across continents. Our ancestors fought. Wars on land, sea, air, and space, Shaw continued. They developed tactics for every possible situation. Guerrilla warfare, psychological operations, siege tactics, fleet battles. All of that knowledge is still here. Dr. Elena Price, Humanities, top scientist, raised her hand. General Shaw, even if we could build old weapons, how would they work against alien technology? We adapt, Shaw said simply. Humans are the best species in the galaxy at adapting. We take their technology, combine it with our history, and create something new. President Voss was quiet for a moment, then she asked, what would this mean? If we choose to fight? Shaw's expression became serious. It means we stop being the peaceful humans we've been for 5,000 years. It means we remember what we were before. Warriors who never gave up, no matter how bad things got. That sounds terrifying, said Park. Good, Shaw replied. War should terrify you, but slavery should terrify you more. Admiral Kane stood up again. I have reports from the outer colonies. The aliens are moving slowly, destroying one world at a time. They think we're helpless. That gives us time to prepare. Time to prepare for what? Asked Torres. To become human again, Kane said. The kind of humans who don't surrender. Dr. Price activated her own display, showing analysis of the alien ships. I've been studying the debris from their attacks. Their technology is advanced, but it has patterns. Everything is standardized, like they only know one way to do things. What does that mean? Asked President Voss. It means they're not creative, Price explained. They expect their enemies to fight in predictable ways. But humans, we've never been predictable. General Shaw smiled for the first time since the meeting began. Exactly. They're expecting us to line up our ships and fight them in open battle. They're not expecting guerrilla tactics or psychological warfare. What about our people? Asked Torres. They've lived in peace for 5,000 years. How do we turn farmers and teachers and shopkeepers into soldiers? Kane looked around the room. We don't have a choice. Either we all become fighters or we all become slaves. Captain Jake Morrison, who had been quiet during the entire meeting, finally spoke up. My mining crews know every asteroid field and hidden station in the outer systems. We can teach others to hide, to strike fast, and to disappear. That's a start, said Shaw. We'll need factories to build weapons, trainers to teach tactics, and leaders to coordinate everything. President Voss took a deep breath. If we vote to fight, there's no going back. We'll be asking our people to risk everything. They're going to lose everything anyway if we surrender, Kane pointed out. The vote was close, but the decision was made. Humanity would fight. Over the next few days, something extraordinary began to happen. The news of the decision spread across all human worlds. Instead of panic, there was determination. Farmers put down their tools and picked up weapons. Teachers began studying military tactics. Engineers started designing war machines. Dr. Price set up laboratories to study captured alien technology. Captain Morrison organized hidden bases in asteroid fields. General Shaw began training a new generation of human warriors using ancient tactics adapted for space combat. But the most surprising change was in the people themselves. As the threat grew closer, something deep inside humanity began to wake up. The peaceful citizens of the Federation started to remember what their ancestors had been, survivors who never quit, fighters who never gave up. Admiral Kane watched from his command center as thousands of volunteer ships joined the defense fleet. They were miners, traders, and explorers, but they all had one thing in common. They were angry. Sir, said Lieutenant Miller. "The alien fleet is approaching Colony World 18. Should we evacuate?" Kane looked at the tactical display. For the first time since the war began, there were human ships waiting to fight back. "No," Kane said. "It's time to show these aliens what humans are really like when someone threatens our home." The real war was about to begin. 3 weeks after humanity declared war, General Shaw stood in the ancient archives beneath old Earth. Dust covered thousands of storage units that hadn't been opened in centuries. His team of researchers was carefully examining military documents from humanity's violent past. "General," called Dr. Lisa Grant, who had been promoted from sergeant after showing exceptional tactical thinking, "I found something interesting in the 21st century archives." Shaw walked over to her workstation. On the screen were battle reports from old Earth conflicts. "What did you find?" "These humans fought enemies who had better weapons and more soldiers," Grant explained. "But they won by using surprise attacks, hit-and-run tactics, and psychological warfare. They called it guerrilla fighting." Shaw nodded. "Our ancestors learned that you don't have to be stronger than your enemy. You just have to be smarter and more determined." Meanwhile, in the asteroid fields near Colony World 18, Captain Jake Morrison was putting those old tactics to use. His mining ship Rock Crusher was hidden inside a hollowed-out asteroid, along with 50 other converted mining vessels. "Remember," Morrison told his crew over the radio, "we don't try to destroy their big ships. We hit their supply convoys, damage their communication arrays, and then disappear before they can respond." Young engineer Alex Ross, who had joined Morrison's group after his homeworld was destroyed, monitored the sensors. "Captain, I'm detecting 3 alien supply ships approaching. No escort vessels." "Perfect," Morrison said. "All ships, this is your first real combat. Stay calm, follow the plan, and remember, our ancestors did this with wooden ships and iron cannons. We can do it with quantum drives and plasma cutters." The human ships emerged from their hiding spots like predators attacking prey. The alien supply vessels were slow and heavily loaded with fuel and equipment. They had never been attacked before, because the Dominion Empire had never faced an enemy that used guerrilla tactics. Morrison's ship struck fast. They used their mining lasers to cut through the aliens' hulls, stole whatever supplies they could carry, and vanished back into the asteroid field. The entire attack took less than 10 minutes. "Did it work?" asked Ross, excitement in his voice. "Look at your sensors," Morrison replied with a smile. The 3 alien supply ships were drifting in space, leaking air and fuel. Their communications equipment was destroyed, so they couldn't call for help. Most importantly, they couldn't deliver their cargo to the main alien fleet. Back on Earth, Dr. Elena Price was making discoveries that would change the war. She had been studying captured alien technology for weeks, and she finally understood how their systems worked. "President Voss," Price said during their daily briefing, "I've found the aliens' weakness." President Voss leaned forward in her chair. "Tell me." "Their entire military operates like a machine," Price explained. "Every ship, every weapon, every soldier follows exact programming. They're incredibly efficient, but they can't adapt when something unexpected happens." "What does that mean for us?" "It means they expect their enemies to fight like machines too," Price said. "When we do something unpredictable, their systems can't respond properly. That's why Captain Morrison's guerrilla attacks are so effective." General Shaw entered the room, carrying a data pad with new intelligence reports. "Dr. Price is right. We've intercepted alien communications, and they're confused by our tactics. They keep asking their commanders what to do when humans don't fight the way they expect. But we're still losing worlds," President Voss pointed out. "They destroyed Colony World 18 yesterday, and they're moving toward our industrial centers." "Yes, but look at how long it took them," Shaw replied. 3 weeks ago they could destroy a world in hours. Now it takes them days because they have to deal with our resistance fighters." Admiral Kane's voice came through the communication system from his battle station. "General Shaw is right. We're not stopping them yet, but we're slowing them down, and every day we delay gives us more time to prepare." The real change was happening in the human colonies themselves. On Manufacturing World 5, factory worker Tom Bradley had never held a weapon in his life. Now he was teaching other workers how to build explosive devices using industrial equipment. The old manuals say these devices were called improvised explosives, Bradley explained to his team. Our ancestors made them when they didn't have proper military weapons. Will they work against alien armor? Asked his assistant, Mary Chen. We're about to find out, Bradley said, attaching the device to a mining robot. If aliens land here, they'll get a surprise they're not expecting. Similar scenes were happening across human space. Teachers became intelligence gatherers, learning to spy on alien movements. Doctors studied alien biology to find ways to harm their enemies. Even children helped by carrying messages and hiding supplies. But the most important change was happening inside human minds. Dr. Price had discovered something that even she found frightening. General Shaw, she said during a private meeting, I need to tell you something about human psychology that the aliens don't understand. What is it? Humans didn't evolve to be peaceful, Price explained. We became peaceful by choice, by controlling our natural instincts. But those instincts are still there, hidden in our genetic memory. Shaw looked at her carefully. Are you saying war is natural for humans? I'm saying survival is natural for humans, Price replied. When our species is threatened, we become something different, something our ancestors would recognize. She showed him brain scans from human volunteers. Look at this. These are peaceful colonists who joined the resistance after their worlds were attacked. Their brain patterns are changing. They're accessing parts of their minds that have been dormant for thousands of years. Shaw studied the data. They're becoming warriors. Yes, but not just any warriors. They're becoming human warriors, creative, adaptive, and absolutely refuse to surrender. Meanwhile, Captain Morrison was planning his biggest operation yet. His guerrilla fleet had grown to over 200 ships, and they had been joined by resistance, fighters from 12 different worlds. We're going to hit their main supply depot, Morrison announced to his captains. It's heavily defended, but if we destroy it, their entire fleet will run out of fuel and ammunition. That's suicide, said one of the captains. They have battleships guarding that depot. Morrison smiled. Our ancestors once said that it's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog. These aliens have big ships, but we have something they'll never understand. What's that? We're fighting for our homes, our families, and our freedom. They're just following orders. As Morrison's fleet prepared for their desperate attack, something was stirring throughout human space. In hidden bases, secret factories, and resistance cells, humanity was remembering what it meant to be human. The aliens had made a critical mistake. They thought 5,000 years of peace had made humans weak. They didn't realize that peace had simply given humans time to become more dangerous than ever before. The real war was about to begin. Supreme Commander Vex stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dark Conquest, watching his fleet prepare for the final assault. After 6 weeks of fighting these strange humans, he was ready to end this war once and for all. Commander, said his second-in-command, Captain Drex, our scouts report that the human homeworld of Earth has only light defenses. Once we destroy their capital, all resistance will collapse. Vex nodded. In his 300 years of military service, he had conquered 47 different species. They all followed the same pattern: destroy their homeworld, and they surrender immediately. How many ships do the humans have defending Earth? Vex asked. Less than 500, sir. Most are converted cargo ships and mining vessels. We have over 3,000 battleships. Good, Vex said. Today we finish what we started. But Vex didn't know about the secret meeting happening on Earth at that very moment. In the underground command center, Admiral Kane, General Shaw, Captain Morrison, and Dr. Price were finalizing their desperate plan. Are you sure this will work? Asked Kane, looking at the tactical display showing the approaching alien fleet. General Shaw pointed at the holographic battle map. Our ancestors used this strategy many times. It's called a trap. You make your enemy think they're winning, then you spring the surprise. But we're not just pretending to be weak, Morrison said. We really are outnumbered 6-1. Numbers don't matter if you use them wrong, Shaw replied. The aliens expect us to meet them in traditional space battle. Instead, We're going to fight like humans. Dr. Price activated her console. My teams have been working around the clock. We've hidden quantum mines throughout the space around Earth. When the alien fleet arrives, they'll be flying into a minefield. What about their shields? Asked Kane. That's where our guerrilla fighters come in, Morrison said. My people have been infiltrating their supply lines for weeks. We've planted virus programs in their computer systems. When I give the signal, their shields will fail. Young engineer Alex Ross, who had become Morrison's top technical expert, raised his hand. General Shaw, what if they don't fall for the trap? What if they attack from a different direction? Shaw smiled. Then we adapt. That's what humans do best. 3 hours later, the Dominion fleet arrived at Earth's solar system. From his command ship, Vex looked at the small human fleet waiting for him near Earth's moon. This is disappointing, he said to Captain Drex. I expected more resistance from their homeworld. Should we demand their surrender first? Asked Drex. No, Vex replied. We destroy them quickly and move on to the next target. The alien fleet moved into attack formation. Their massive battleships activated their energy weapons, preparing to destroy the human defenders in one overwhelming assault. Admiral Kane watched from his command ship as the alien fleet approached. His hands were steady, but inside he felt the same fear and determination that his ancestors had felt in ancient battles. All ships, Kane announced over the radio. Remember what we're fighting for. Remember the millions of people these aliens have killed. Today we show them what happens when you threaten humanity. The battle began exactly as the aliens expected. The human ships fired their weapons, but their shots bounced harmlessly off the Dominion shields. The alien return fire destroyed several human vessels in the first few minutes. Sir, reported Captain Drex, human casualties are heavy. Their fleet is breaking apart. Vex watched the human ships scatter in apparent panic. Some fled toward the asteroid belt, others dove toward Earth's atmosphere. It looked like complete chaos. Pursue them, Vex ordered. Don't let any escape. This was exactly what General Shaw had planned. As the alien fleet spread out to chase the fleeing human ships, they were no longer in tight formation. They were scattered across the solar system, isolated and vulnerable. Now, whispered Morrison from his hidden position in the asteroid belt. Across the solar system, human resistance, fighters activated their secret weapons. The virus programs that Ross had planted in alien computer systems triggered all at once. Suddenly, hundreds of Dominion ships lost their shields and weapons. At the same moment, Dr. Price's quantum mines exploded throughout the alien fleet. Ships that had seemed invincible moments before were now damaged and defenseless. What's happening? Shouted Vex as his flagship shook from multiple explosions. Sir, our shields are down. Our weapons are offline. We're detecting explosions throughout the fleet. Vex couldn't believe what he was seeing. The scattered human ships had suddenly turned around and were attacking his disabled vessels. But these weren't the same humans who had fled in panic. These ships moved with precision and coordination, striking at exactly the right targets. Captain Morrison led a group of converted mining ships against a cluster of alien battleships. His vessels were much smaller, but they were fast and agile. They darted between the giant alien ships like wolves attacking elephants. Target their engine sections, Morrison ordered. Remember, we don't need to destroy them. We just need to stop them. The mining lasers that had once cut through asteroids now sliced through alien hull armor. The ships that had been tools of peace were now weapons of war. On another part of the battlefield, Dr. Grant led a squadron of fighters in a direct assault on the alien command ships. Her pilots were teachers, farmers, and shopkeepers who had learned to fly military tactics from ancient Earth manuals. Stay together, Grant radioed to her squadron. Use the gravity of the moon to increase your speed, just like the old fighter pilots did in atmospheric combat. The human fighters moved in formations that the aliens had never seen before. They used planets and asteroids as cover, attacked from unexpected angles, and coordinated their strikes with deadly precision. But the most shocking moment came when Admiral Kane's flagship approached Vex's command ship directly. The two largest vessels in the battle faced each other across empty space. Human commander, Vex broadcast on all frequencies. Your tactics are impressive, but you cannot defeat the entire Dominion Empire. Even if you win today, we will return with 10 times as many ships. Kane's reply echoed across the battlefield. Commander Vex, you made one critical mistake. You thought 5,000 years of peace made us weak. You didn't realize it gave us time to become more dangerous than we've ever been. Impossible, Vex said. No species can change that much. You're about to find out what humans are really like, Kane replied. The final phase of the battle was about to begin. The alien fleet was crippled and scattered, but the war was far from over. Now came the test that would determine whether humanity could not only fight, but also show mercy when victory was within their grasp. Supreme Commander Vex was about to learn that the most dangerous thing about humans wasn't their ability to make war, it was their ability to choose when to stop. The space around Earth was filled with debris from destroyed alien ships. Supreme Commander Vex's flagship was badly damaged, its weapons offline and engines failing. Around him, the mighty Dominion fleet was in ruins. But Vex was not ready to surrender. In 300 years of conquest, he had never been defeated. He activated his personal communication system and sent a message to the entire Dominion Empire. All Dominion forces, this is Supreme Commander Vex. Send reinforcements to the human home system immediately. Bring every available ship. These humans must be destroyed. Admiral Kane intercepted the message from his command ship. He looked at the tactical display showing the scattered alien fleet. Many ships were disabled, but some were still fighting. General Shaw, Kane said over the radio, "We've won this battle, but the war isn't over. If more alien fleets come, we might not survive the next attack." Shaw's voice crackled through the speakers. "Admiral, there's something I need to tell you about human warfare. The greatest victories come not from destroying your enemy, but from making them choose to stop fighting." "What do you mean?" "Watch and learn," Shaw replied. Meanwhile, Captain Morrison was leading a boarding party onto one of the damaged alien ships. His team included Alex Ross and several other volunteers who had never been soldiers before the war started. "Remember," Morrison told his team as they cut through the alien hull, "we're not here to kill everyone. We're here to capture their command systems and show them something they've never seen before." The interior of the alien ship was dark and filled with smoke. Morrison's team moved carefully through the corridors, following the layout that Dr. Price had discovered from captured alien technology. They found the ship's bridge where a dozen alien officers were trapped by fallen debris. The aliens expected to be executed immediately, as was the custom in Dominion warfare. Instead, Morrison ordered his team to help free the trapped aliens from the wreckage. "Why are you helping us?" asked one of the alien officers in broken English. "Because that's what humans do," Morrison replied, lifting a heavy beam off the alien's leg. "We fight when we have to, but we help when we can." The alien stared at Morrison in confusion. In Dominion culture, enemies were never shown mercy. Weakness was punished by death. Back on Vex's flagship, the Supreme Commander was watching his fleet fall apart around him. More than half of his ships were destroyed or disabled. His communications with the Dominion Empire had been cut off by human jamming systems. "Sir," said Captain Drex, "we should retreat. We can regroup and attack again with a larger force." "No," Vex said firmly. "I will not be the first Dominion commander to retreat from an inferior species." Dr. Grant's fighter squadron had surrounded Vex's command ship. Instead of attacking, she sent a communication request. "Supreme Commander Vex, this is Commander Grant of the Terran Defense Corps. I want to talk." "There is nothing to discuss," Vex replied. "Surrender or be destroyed." "Actually," Grant said, "I have a better offer. Single combat. You and me. If I win, your fleet leaves human space forever. If you win, we'll discuss surrender terms." Vex was intrigued. Single combat was an honored tradition in Dominion culture. It was also his specialty. He had never lost a personal duel. "You would risk everything on single combat?" Vex asked. "That's what humans do," Grant replied. "We bet everything when it matters most." An hour later, the two commanders met on the damaged hull of a neutral cargo ship. The entire battle fleet from both sides watched as they faced each other in the vacuum of space, wearing combat suits and carrying energy weapons. Vex was larger and stronger than Grant. He had decades of combat experience. His weapon was more advanced. By every logical measure, he should have won easily. But Grant had something Vex didn't understand. She was fighting not just for victory, but for the survival of everyone she loved. When the duel began, she moved with a desperation and creativity that the alien commander had never encountered. The fight was brutal and lasted for 20 minutes. Both warriors were wounded and exhausted. Finally, Vex managed to disarm Grant and knock her down. He stood over her, ready to deliver the killing blow. "You fought well for a human," Vex said, "but you were never strong enough to defeat the Dominion." Grant looked up at him and smiled. "I was never trying to defeat the Dominion. I was trying to save it." "What do you mean?" "Look around you," Grant said, gesturing at the space battle around them. "Your ships are destroyed. Your fleet is beaten. But my people aren't killing your survivors. We're rescuing them." Vex turned to look at the battlefield. To his amazement, he saw human ships pulling alien survivors from damaged vessels. Medical teams were treating wounded aliens alongside wounded humans. Instead of executing prisoners, humans were offering them food and medical care. "This is impossible," Vex whispered. "Victorious species always destroy the defeated. That is the way of the universe." "That's the way of the Dominion," Grant corrected him. "But humans learned something different during our 5,000 years of peace. We learned that the strongest victory is the one that makes your enemy into your friend." Admiral Kane's voice came over the communication system, broadcasting to both fleets. "Supreme Commander Vex, I offer you a choice. You can continue fighting until all your ships are destroyed and all your people are dead, or you can accept our terms for peace." "What terms?" Vex asked suspiciously. "No terms," Kane replied. "No surrender, no slavery, no punishment. We offer you partnership. Your people can live in human space as equals. Your military knowledge combined with our creativity could benefit both our species." Vex couldn't believe what he was hearing. "You would trust the people who attacked you?" "We would trust the people who are brave enough to choose peace over war," Kane said. "The question is, are you that brave?" For the first time in his life, Supreme Commander Vex felt something he had never experienced before. Doubt. Not doubt about his ability to fight, but doubt about whether fighting was the right choice. He looked at Grant, who was still lying wounded at his feet. Instead of fear or hatred, her eyes showed only hope. "If I accept your offer," Vex said slowly, "what happens to my fleet? My soldiers?" "They become part of something new," Grant replied, struggling to sit up. "The Galactic Peace Corps. Instead of conquering worlds, we protect them. Instead of destroying species, we help them grow." Vex was quiet for a long moment. Then he did something that shocked his entire fleet. He offered his hand to help Grant stand up. "I have spent 300 years learning how to make war," Vex said. "Perhaps it is time I learned how to make peace." The war was over, but more importantly, it was the beginning of something that had never existed before, a partnership between two species that chose cooperation over conquest. 6 months later, Admiral Kane and Supreme Commander Vex stood together on the bridge of the first joint human-alien peacekeeping ship. They were heading to a distant galaxy where a new conflict threatened innocent lives. "You know," Vex said, "I still don't understand how you humans think. You had the chance to destroy us completely, but instead you made us stronger." Kane smiled. "That's the secret of human warfare, Vex. We don't fight to destroy our enemies, we fight to protect what we love. And sometimes the best way to protect what you love is to help your enemy learn to love it too." The ship jumped to hyperspace, carrying its crew of humans and aliens toward their first mission as guardians of galactic peace. Humanity had won the war not by becoming monsters but by remaining human, eh? The Great Hall of the Galactic Council had never seen such panic. For 3,000 years, the massive crystal chamber floating in the void between stars had been a place of calm discussion and peaceful trade agreements. Today, it buzzed with terror. Ambassador Kren of the Centauri Alliance stood at his speaking podium, his blue skin pale with fear. Around him, representatives from hundreds of worlds whispered in dozens of languages, but the message was the same everywhere. The Blood Claw Empire was coming and no one could stop them. The Vega system has fallen, Kren announced, his voice shaking. That makes 12 star systems in just 2 months. The Blood Claws are not just conquering, they are hunting us like animals. In the viewing screens above, images of destruction played on repeat. Entire cities turned to ash, ships torn apart by massive claws. The Blood Claws were not like the peaceful species of the Council. They were born warriors, each one standing 9 feet tall with natural armor and razor-sharp claws. Their ships were grown, not built, living creatures that could heal from damage and adapt to new weapons. Elder Tam of the Peaceful Worlds Coalition stepped forward. His people had been the first to face the Blood Claws, and only a few thousand had escaped. We must evacuate the core worlds, he said. There is no shame in running from a superior predator. It is what civilized beings do. Murmurs of agreement filled the hall. Every species in the council had evolved from prey animals or peaceful plant-eaters. When faced with a threat, their instinct was to hide or run. It had served them well for millions of years. But where can we run? Asked Representative Lin from the outer colonies. The Blood Claws are not just taking territory. They are hunting for sport. They enjoy the chase. Admiral Vex, one of the few military minds in the Peaceful Council, pulled up a star map. Red zones marked Blood Claw territory, and they were spreading fast. At their current rate, they will reach the Council. Worlds in 6 months. We need a miracle. That was when Kren remembered the survey report sitting on his desk. A small blue planet in an unremarkable system. The species there had just developed basic space travel. According to standard procedure, he was supposed to make first contact and invite them to join the Council. Perhaps, Kren said slowly, we should look for new allies. There is a recently discovered world called Earth. The species there might be willing to help if we offer them protection. Elder, Tam nodded. Yes, gather as many worlds as we can. Even if they can only provide ships to help with evacuation, every vessel counts. Kren looked at the survey photos of Earth, green and blue with white clouds. It looked peaceful. The beings there were called humans, and they appeared to be typical bipedal mammals. Nothing special about them. They would probably be grateful for the Council's protection. 3 days later, Kren's ship dropped out of hyperspace near Earth. The planet looked even more beautiful up close. His sensors detected millions of the creatures moving around on the surface. They had built cities and roads, and primitive spacecraft were moving between their planet and its single moon. Standard first contact protocol, Kren told his aide. Marcus, approach slowly, broadcast peaceful intentions and request permission to land. The response came quickly, a voice speaking in what his translator identified as English. Unknown vessel, this is Earth Defense Command. State your purpose. Kren blinked. Earth Defense Command? That sounded military, but the survey had indicated these were peaceful beings. Greetings, people of Earth. I am Ambassador Kren of the Galactic Council. We come in peace to welcome you to the galactic community. There was a pause. Then, Ambassador, you are cleared. To land at coordinates we are transmitting. A reception committee will meet you. As Kren's ship descended through Earth's atmosphere, he noticed something odd. There were structures on the surface that looked like military bases, and those objects moving in the sky. They were not just transport vessels. They were clearly designed for combat. The landing site was a flat area surrounded by buildings. As Kren stepped out of his ship, he was greeted by several humans in matching uniforms. They stood straight and alert like soldiers. Welcome to Earth, Ambassador, said a human with gray hair and sharp eyes. I am General Scott, Earth Defense Command. We are honored by your visit. Kren felt confused. Why did a peaceful planet have a defense command? And why did these humans carry themselves like warriors? General Scott, thank you for this welcome. I bring greetings from the Galactic Council and an invitation for Earth to join our peaceful federation. General Scott smiled, but there was something predatory about it. We would be very interested in learning more about this council. Perhaps we could discuss it over dinner. We have prepared a meal in your honor. The dinner was held in a large room with many humans. Kren noticed they all moved with a certain grace, like hunters. Their eyes constantly scanned the room, as if looking for threats or opportunities. Tell us about this galaxy of yours, Ambassador, said a human woman introduced as Dr. Reed. Are there many different species? Oh yes, Kren replied, relaxing, as he spoke about familiar topics. Hundreds of worlds, all committed to peace and trade. We have built a wonderful civilization based on cooperation and mutual understanding. That sounds nice, said General Scott. And everyone gets along, no conflicts? Kren's expression darkened. Well, recently we have faced a serious threat. A species called the Bloodclaws has begun conquering worlds. They are born warriors, completely focused on hunting and domination. Very unlike civilized species. The humans around the table exchanged glances. Kren noticed their posture had changed. They looked more alert, more focused. These Bloodclaws, Dr. Reed said carefully. How do they fight? What are their tactics? They attack without warning, Kren explained. Their ships are biological, able to heal and adapt. Their warriors are massive with natural weapons. They seem to enjoy the hunt itself as much as the conquest. Interesting, murmured General Scott. And how have other species responded to this threat? The only sensible way, Kren said, evacuation. No civilized species can match such savage predators in combat. We are plant eaters and peaceful beings. When faced with natural hunters, we must run. The room had gone very quiet. Kren looked around and noticed something strange in the humans' expressions. They did not look afraid. They looked interested. Ambassador, General Scott said slowly. What would happen if these Bloodclaws came to Earth? Kren felt a chill. Oh, you must not worry about that. The Council will provide protection. We will evacuate your people to safe worlds before the Bloodclaws can reach this system. General Scott leaned back in his chair. And what if we didn't want to evacuate? The question made no sense to Kren. But why would you stay? They are perfect predators. Resistance would be suicide. The humans around the table began to smile. Kren suddenly realized that these smiles looked very much like the expression a predator might wear when it found interesting prey. Ambassador, Dr. Reed said quietly, I think there might be something about humans that your survey missed. Ambassador Kren woke up in his assigned quarters feeling confused. The humans had given him comfortable rooms in what they called the diplomatic wing of their base, but something felt wrong. Through his window, he could see humans moving around, the compound with purpose and energy that seemed almost military. After breakfast, General Scott appeared at his door with a smile. Ambassador, we thought you might like to see more of our world. Would you be interested in observing some of our recreational activities? Kren nodded eagerly. Understanding alien cultures was part of his job, and recreation usually revealed peaceful, artistic sides of species. That would be wonderful, General. They walked to what appeared to be a large field where humans were gathering. Kren expected to see something like the flower arranging contests of the Centauri or the gentle singing circles of the vegan people. Instead, he watched in horror as humans threw themselves out of flying aircraft with only thin fabric to slow their fall. What are they doing? Kren gasped, his blue skin turning pale. Skydiving, General Scott replied casually. It's fun. Many humans enjoy the thrill of jumping from high places. But they could die. Sometimes they do. That's part of what makes it exciting. Kren stared as human after human leaped from the aircraft, screaming with what sounded like joy as they fell toward the ground. This was not normal behavior for any civilized species he knew. Perhaps we could see something more peaceful, Kren suggested weakly. Of course. Let's visit the sports complex. The sports complex turned out to be a massive building where humans were engaged in various forms of organized combat. In one area, 2 humans were hitting each other with padded gloves while others cheered. In another section, humans were throwing each other to the ground in what they called wrestling. Elsewhere, teams of humans were aggressively chasing a ball, tackling each other with violent enthusiasm. "This is recreation?" Kren asked. "Entertainment," corrected Dr. Reed, who had joined them. "Humans love competition. We love to test ourselves against others, to see who is stronger, faster, smarter." Kren watched a particularly brutal collision between 2 humans pursuing the ball. Both got up, shook hands, and continued playing as if nothing had happened. "Don't they get hurt?" "All the time. But that's how we improve. Pain teaches us lessons that safety cannot." They moved to another area where humans sat in rows, staring at large screens. Kren hoped this might be more peaceful. Perhaps they were watching nature documentaries or educational programs. Instead, he found himself looking at what appeared to be a galactic war. Massive fleets of spaceships were engaged in battle, with explosions and laser fire filling the screen. But what disturbed Kren most was how accurately the humans had imagined space combat. "This is fiction?" he asked. "A movie," General Scott confirmed. "Humans love stories about conflict, especially wars in space." On the screen, human characters were developing tactics to fight alien invaders. They were using strategies that would actually work, Kren realized with growing alarm. These were not the peaceful fantasies of plant eaters. These were the detailed plans of natural warriors. "How do you know so much about space warfare?" Kren asked. "Your species has barely left your own planet." Dr. Reed smiled. "We think about it. Humans spend a lot of time imagining how we would fight in different situations. It's like a mental exercise. But why would you imagine fighting? Why not imagine peace?" The humans exchanged those predatory looks again. "Peace is nice," General Scott said, "but it's boring. Conflict is where we learn who we really are." That evening, Kren requested a private meeting with Earth's leaders to discuss the Bloodclaw threat more seriously. He was taken to a secure room where several humans in military uniforms waited around a large table covered with maps and charts. "Ambassador," said General Scott, "we've been thinking about what you told us yesterday. These Bloodclaws sound like a serious problem?" "Yes," Kren agreed, relieved that the humans were finally showing proper concern. "That is why the Council will arrange for your people's evacuation. We have safe worlds where—" "Actually," interrupted a human introduced as Colonel Davis, "we were hoping you could tell us more about their capabilities. What kind of ships do they use? How are their forces organized? What are their weaknesses?" Kren blinked. "Their weaknesses? I don't understand. The Bloodclaws are perfect predators. They have no weaknesses." "Everything has weaknesses," Dr. Reed said firmly. "No system is perfect. No strategy is unbeatable." Despite himself, Kren found himself answering their questions. The humans asked about Bloodclaw ship designs, their command structure, their supply lines, their breeding cycles, their psychological profiles. Questions that no civilized species had ever thought to ask. "You see," explained Colonel Davis, pointing to a chart he had drawn while Kren spoke, "they rely heavily on fear and surprise. But what happens when they face an enemy that doesn't run? What happens when they encounter resistance they didn't expect? They would adapt," Kren said. "They are hunters. Adaptation is what they do. So are we," said General Scott quietly. The words sent a chill through Kren's body. He looked around the table at the human faces, all focused and alert. They were not discussing evacuation or surrender. They were planning a war. "You cannot be serious," Kren said. "Your species has never fought a space battle. You have no experience with galactic warfare. The Bloodclaws have conquered dozens of worlds. How many of those worlds fought back?" asked Dr. Reed. Kren thought about it. "Well, none, really. Civilized species don't fight. We run, we hide, we negotiate. Has anyone tried fighting them? Of course not. That would be suicide." The humans were quiet for a moment. Then General Scott leaned forward. "Ambassador, what if I told you that every human child grows up playing war games? that our entire history is one long story of conflict and survival, that we have never met. A problem we didn't try to solve by fighting it? I would say that sounds like a very uncivilized species, Kren replied honestly. Maybe. But maybe that's exactly what this galaxy needs right now. Colonel Davis stood up and walked to a large screen on the wall. Computer, show Ambassador Kren the historical files. The screen lit up with images from Earth's past. Humans fighting with primitive weapons, then more advanced ones. Wars between nations, between tribes, between cities. Thousands of years of constant conflict. This is our history, Ambassador. We are not peaceful plant eaters. We are predators who learn to hunt in packs, and right now, there's a bigger predator threatening our new neighbors. Kren stared at the images. Humans in battle, humans building weapons, humans developing strategies, generation after generation of warriors. You're not going to evacuate, are you? He asked weakly. General Scott smiled that predatory smile again. Ambassador, we're going to do something that no species in your council has ever tried. We're going to hunt the hunters. The Bloodclaw invasion fleet arrived at Earth 3 weeks after Ambassador Kren's warning reached the Galactic Council. 50 massive bioships dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system, their living hulls pulsing with dark energy. Each ship was the size of a small moon, grown rather than built, capable of healing damage and adapting to enemy weapons. On the lead ship, War Alpha Drac stood on his command deck, his 9-foot frame covered in natural armor plates. His claws, each as long as a human forearm, clicked against the organic controls as he studied the blue planet ahead. Another soft world, he growled to his pack leaders. The usual pattern, cities full of prey creatures, probably hiding in fear by now. Pack leader Voss, scarred from 100 battles, studied the scanner readings. The planet shows signs of primitive space technology, Alpha. They have small ships moving between their world and its moon. Irrelevant, Drac replied. Prey tech. Send the standard message. The transmission beam reached Earth within minutes. In the command center of Earth Defense Command, General Scott and his staff listened to the Bloodclaw ultimatum, translated by Ambassador Kren's equipment. People of the third planet, the message began, you have been chosen for absorption into the Bloodclaw Empire. Surrender now and your deaths will be swift. Resist and we will hunt you for sport across your world. You have 1 rotation of your planet to respond. The command center fell silent. Ambassador Kren, watching from the corner, expected to see panic and despair. Instead, he saw something that chilled him to his core. The humans were smiling. General Scott walked to the communications console. Open a channel, he ordered. Channel open, sir. Attention, Bloodclaw fleet. General Scott spoke clearly into the microphone. This is General Scott of Earth Defense Command. We have received your ultimatum and have prepared our response. He paused, looking around at his staff. Every human in the room nodded. Bring it on. On the Bloodclaw command ship, War Alpha Drac stared at his communications officer. What did they say? I believe, Alpha, they just challenged us to combat. Drac's eyes narrowed. In 300 years of conquest, no prey species had ever responded with defiance. They begged, they offered tribute, they tried to negotiate. They never issued challenges. Interesting, he growled. Perhaps these creatures will provide better sport than usual. Begin the attack. The Bloodclaw bioships moved toward Earth like a pack of predators approaching wounded prey. Their scanning beams swept the planet looking for defensive positions and major population centers. What they found confused them. Alpha, reported Pack Leader Voss. The prey creatures are not fleeing. Our scans show massive movement on the surface, but they appear to be moving toward defensive positions rather than away from them. Drac studied the readings. The humans had built fortifications around their major cities. More disturbing, they had positioned weapons in orbit. Crude, by Bloodclaw standards, but far more sophisticated than any prey species had ever deployed. No matter, Drac decided. Fear makes prey creatures do strange things. Begin orbital bombardment of their largest population center. The first wave of bioplasma bolts streaked toward Earth, targeting the city the humans called New York. The Bloodclaws expected to see the city reduced to ash within minutes. Instead, something unprecedented happened. The humans fought back. Defensive satellites that had been disguised as communication relays suddenly revealed hidden weapon systems. Orbital platforms that looked like peaceful space stations opened up with coordinated fire. The sky above Earth lit up with laser beams, missile trails, and explosions. Most shocking of all, the humans had somehow weaponized their own space debris. Chunks of metal that looked like orbital junk suddenly activated tiny engines and threw themselves at the Bloodclaw ships like guided projectiles. "Alpha!" Voss shouted over the alarm klaxons. "They've turned their entire orbital space into a weapon system." 3 Bloodclaw ships took serious damage in the first exchange. Their biohulls began healing immediately, but the humans kept firing, targeting the same spots over and over to prevent regeneration. "Impossible," Drax snarled. "Prey species don't fight like this. They don't think like this." On Earth's surface, Admiral Torres coordinated the planet's defense from a bunker deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. Around her, screens showed the battle. In space and preparations on the ground. "All orbital platforms, concentrate fire on the damaged ships," she ordered. "Don't let them heal. Ground units, prepare for surface assault." Ambassador Kren, watching from a corner of the command center, felt sick. "Admiral, you cannot win this battle. The Bloodclaws will adapt to your weapons, they always do." Admiral Torres glanced at him. "That's what we're counting on." Before Kren could ask what she meant, the first Bloodclaw landing craft broke through Earth's orbital defenses and screamed toward the surface. Each craft carried 50 Bloodclaw warriors, genetically perfect killing machines that had never known defeat. They landed in Central Park in New York City, expecting to find cowering civilians. Instead, they found a carefully prepared killing ground. The humans had evacuated the civilians, but they had not abandoned the city. Every building had been turned into a fortress. Every street had become a potential ambush point. The Bloodclaws found themselves fighting an enemy that seemed to be everywhere and nowhere at once. Humans appeared from manholes, from rooftops, from behind barricades that hadn't been there moments before. They fought with weapons the Bloodclaws had never seen, some obviously military, others clearly improvised from civilian technology. A human with a construction tool that shot metal spikes at hypersonic speed. Another with what appeared to be a modified fire suppression system that sprayed liquid nitrogen. But what disturbed the Bloodclaws most was how the humans fought. They didn't stand and face their enemies like honorable warriors. They used tricks, traps, and tactics that were almost predatory. Pack leader Scar, commanding the New York assault, found himself cornered in what the humans called Times Square. His pack of 20 warriors had been reduced to 5 in just 2 hours of fighting. "These are not prey creatures," he transmitted to the fleet. "They hunt like we do." The humans had used the city's underground tunnels to move unseen. They had rigged buildings to collapse at precise moments. They had somehow turned the city's electrical system into a weapon, sending power surges through metal surfaces to stun attackers. Worst of all, they were learning. Each time the Bloodclaws adapted to a human tactic, the humans changed their approach. They were evolving their strategy in real time, as if warfare was their natural state. War Alpha Drac watched the surface battle through his ship's sensors, his confidence shaking for the first time in decades. "Send more warriors, all of them." "Alpha," Voss said carefully. "Perhaps we should withdraw and study these creatures further." "No," Drac roared. "We are the ultimate predators. We do not retreat from prey." But even as he gave the order, Drac felt something he had not experienced in centuries of conquest. For the first time since his species had left their homeworld, the Bloodclaws were not the most dangerous predators on the battlefield. They were being out-hunted. The news of Earth's resistance spread through the galaxy faster than hyperspace travel. For the first time in the war, a Bloodclaw invasion had not only been stopped but pushed back. 3 Bloodclaw bioships limped away from Earth orbit, their hulls scarred and their crews demoralized. In the Galactic Council chambers, emergency sessions ran day and night. Representatives from hundreds of worlds gathered to witness something they had thought impossible. a species that could match the blood claws in combat. Elder Tam stood at the central podium, his hands shaking as he read the battle reports. The humans destroyed 7 Bloodclaw landing craft and forced the retreat of their entire advance fleet. They captured Bloodclaw warriors alive and seized their equipment. Gasps echoed through the chamber. No species had ever captured Bloodclaw technology before. The bioweapons were designed to self-destruct if taken by enemies. "How is this possible?" asked Representative Lin. "The Bloodclaws are perfect hunters. They have conquered 43 star systems." Ambassador Kren stepped forward, his blue skin still pale from what he had witnessed on Earth. "Honored Council, I have observed these humans closely. They are not like us. They do not think like civilized beings." He activated a holographic display showing footage from the Battle of New York. The assembled representatives watched in stunned silence as humans used tactics that seemed almost alien in their ruthlessness. "They turned their own city into a weapon," Kren continued. "They sacrificed buildings, infrastructure, even entire districts to trap and eliminate Bloodclaw forces. When cornered, they did not surrender or flee. They became more dangerous." "Council." Leader Vex leaned forward. "Are you saying the humans are as savage as the Bloodclaws?" "No," Kren replied slowly. "I am saying they may be worse. The Bloodclaws hunt for conquest and glory. Humans hunt because it is their nature. They have been fighting wars against each other for their entire history. To them, warfare is not an aberration. It is normal." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. A species that considered constant warfare to be natural behavior. A species that had spent thousands of years learning how to kill efficiently. Admiral Vex, the Council's senior military advisor, stood up. "If the humans can fight the Bloodclaws, perhaps we should ask for their help. Our evacuation fleets cannot outrun the Bloodclaw advance forever. Ask predators to help us fight other predators?" Elder Tam shook his head. "How do we know the humans won't turn on us once the Bloodclaws are defeated?" "Because," came a new voice from the chamber entrance, "we have better things to do than conquer a bunch of peaceful farmers." The entire council turned to see a human in military uniform walking down the central aisle. He moved with the controlled grace of a natural predator, and his eyes constantly scanned the room as if looking for threats or tactical advantages. "I am Colonel Mason of the Earth Expeditionary Force," the human announced. "My government has sent me to discuss military cooperation with the Galactic Council." Elder Tam's voice shook. You wish to help us?" "We wish to hunt Bloodclaws," Colonel Mason corrected. "You happen to have a Bloodclaw problem. It seems like a mutually beneficial arrangement." Council Leader Vex gestured for the human to approach the central platform. "Colonel, what exactly is your government proposing?" "Colonel," Mason activated his own holographic display. The council members gasped as detailed star charts appeared, showing Bloodclaw positions, supply lines, and strategic vulnerabilities that their own military had never identified. "The Bloodclaw Empire is large but overextended," Colonel Mason began. "They rely on fear and rapid conquest to maintain control. Their forces are spread across dozens of systems, and their command structure has critical weaknesses." He highlighted several systems on the map. "These are their primary breeding worlds. These are their main supply depots. And this," he pointed to a cluster of stars deep in Bloodclaw territory, "is their capital system." Representative Lin stared at the analysis. "How did you gather this intelligence?" "We have been fighting the Bloodclaws for months and never discovered these patterns." "You were running away," Colonel Mason replied bluntly. "We studied them. Every battle teaches you something about your enemy. Every captured piece of equipment tells you how they think. Every intercepted transmission reveals their plans." "Admiral," Vex leaned forward. "What are you proposing, Colonel?" "Total warfare," Mason answered without hesitation. "We hit them simultaneously on multiple fronts. Destroy their supply lines, eliminate their breeding facilities, and force their scattered forces to choose between retreat or annihilation." The casual way the human discussed genocide made several council members visibly uncomfortable. Elder Tam spoke carefully. "Colonel, The Council has always sought peaceful solutions to conflicts. Perhaps negotiation. You cannot negotiate with predators, Colonel Mason interrupted. You can only be stronger than they are. He changed the display to show human military preparations. Council members watched in amazement as human shipyards that had been building peaceful exploration vessels were rapidly converted to military production. Entire human cities were being reorganized to support the war effort. In 3 months, Earth will deploy the first human expeditionary fleet. 50 ships, each equipped with weapons and technology, adapted from captured Bloodclaw equipment. But we will not fight like the Bloodclaws. How will you fight? Asked Admiral Vex. Colonel Mason smiled, and every council member felt a chill at the predatory expression. We will fight like humans. We will be faster, smarter, and more ruthless than anything they have ever faced. The display showed human weapon, designs that made even the peaceful council representatives nervous. Energy weapons that could drain the life from Bloodclaw bioships. Projectile weapons that used kinetic force to punch through their natural armor. Most disturbing of all, psychological warfare systems designed to turn the Bloodclaws' hunting instincts against them. Your species fights wars very differently than we do, observed Council Leader Vex. Your species doesn't fight wars at all, Colonel Mason pointed out. That is why you are losing. Elder Tam stood up shakily. Colonel, if we agree to this alliance, what guarantees do we have that humanity will not become the next threat to galactic peace? Colonel Mason looked around the chamber at the hundreds of peaceful species representatives. Elder Tam, look at us. We are one world with a few million soldiers. You are hundreds of worlds with billions of citizens. If we wanted to conquer the galaxy, we would need to fight everyone at once. He paused, letting that sink in. But we don't want to conquer you. Conquest is boring. We prefer worthy opponents. And right now the Bloodclaws are the most interesting challenge in the galaxy. The council deliberated for hours, but the conclusion was inevitable. They needed the humans, no matter how uncomfortable that made them. The vote was unanimous. As Colonel Mason left the council chambers, Ambassador Kren caught up with him in the corridor. Colonel, may I ask you something? Of course. Why are you really doing this? What does humanity gain from helping us? Colonel Mason stopped walking and looked at Kren with those predatory human eyes. Ambassador, for 10,000 years, my species has been fighting each other because we had no other worthy opponents. You have just introduced us to an entire galaxy full of challenges. He started walking again, then called back over his shoulder. We are not doing this to help you, Ambassador. We are doing this because we were born for it. 6 months after the first human fleet departed Earth, the Bloodclaw Empire faced something they had never encountered in their 1,000-year history of conquest: systematic defeat. The human war machine had proven to be unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Where other species built armies to defend their homes, humans built armies to hunt their enemies across the stars. Every human ship was designed not just to fight, but to pursue, trap, and eliminate fleeing opponents. War Alpha Drac stood in the ruins of his command center on the fortress world of Kalar Prime, watching the final human assault through cracked viewing screens. His once mighty empire was collapsing faster than he could comprehend. Report, he growled to his remaining pack leaders. Pack leader Voss, his armor scarred from a dozen battles with human forces, consulted his tactical display. The breeding worlds of Sekthor and Volan have fallen. The humans used some kind of biological weapon that made our eggs fail to hatch. The supply depot at Nexus Station was destroyed when they somehow turned our own bioships against us. Drac's claws scraped against the organic walls of his command chamber. How many systems do we still control? 7, Alpha, down from 43. In less than 6 months, the humans had dismantled an empire that had taken centuries to build. They had not done it through superior numbers or better technology. They had done it by thinking like predators. The humans do not fight like any species we have encountered, Voss continued. They do not simply attack our positions. They study our behavior, learn our patterns, and then use our own instincts against us. Drac remembered the Battle of Epsilon, Sector, where human forces had deliberately appeared weak and scattered. drawing his hunters into what seemed like easy prey. Instead, they had found themselves surrounded by human ships that had been hiding in asteroid fields and behind disabled hulks. The humans had used the Bloodclaw's hunting instincts to lure them into a trap. And their weapons, Voss added with something like fear in his voice. They adapt faster than our bioships can heal. Every time we develop a defense, they create 3 new ways to attack. The humans had reverse-engineered captured Bloodclaw technology within weeks, but they had not simply copied it. They had improved it, modified it, and weaponized it in ways the Bloodclaws had never imagined. Bioships that had once been immune to energy weapons now fell to human plasma cannons that used their own organic matter as fuel. A communication alert sounded. Drac activated the display to see the face of General Ross, the human commander who had been hunting his forces across the galaxy. War Alpha Drac, General Ross said calmly. I believe we need to talk. I do not negotiate with prey, Drac snarled. General Ross smiled that predatory human smile. Neither do I. I am offering you a choice. The display changed to show the current tactical situation. Human fleets surrounded the remaining Bloodclaw worlds like packs of wolves circling wounded prey. Drac realized with growing horror that the humans had been hurting his forces, driving them toward this final confrontation. Your empire is finished, General Ross continued. Your breeding worlds are gone. Your supply lines are cut. Your scattered forces are being hunted down one by one. You can surrender now and live as prisoners, or you can fight and die as warriors. Drac's eyes narrowed. You would keep us as pets? We would study you, General Ross replied honestly. Learn how you fight, how you think, how you evolve to become such effective predators. You are the first species we have encountered that understands warfare the way we do. For a moment, Drac felt something like respect for the human commander. These creatures understood the nature of conflict in a way that even the Bloodclaws had not fully grasped. And if we choose to fight, Drac asked, then we will give you the death of warriors. No quarter asked or given. The strongest predator wins. Drac looked around his command center at the faces of his remaining pack leaders. They were warriors born and bred for battle. The idea of living as prisoners was more terrifying than death. We choose to fight, Drac decided. General Ross nodded as if he had expected this answer. Very well. We will meet you at your homeworld. Bring everything you have left. The transmission ended. Drac turned to his officers. Gather all remaining forces. Send word to every Bloodclaw warrior in the galaxy. We make our final stand at the throne world. 3 weeks later, the last great battle of the Bloodclaw War began in the space around their ancient homeworld. Every surviving Bloodclaw ship and warrior had gathered for this final confrontation. Nearly 200 bioships formed a defensive sphere around their planet, ready to fight to the death. The human fleet that emerged from hyperspace was smaller, only 80 ships. But Drac had learned not to judge human forces by their numbers. All ships, Drac transmitted to his fleet. This is our final hunt. We die as warriors or not at all. The battle began with the Bloodclaws charging forward in their traditional attack formation. They expected the humans to meet them ship to ship, in honorable combat. Instead, the humans did something unprecedented. They broadcast a signal that penetrated every Bloodclaw bioship simultaneously. It was not a weapon, it was sound. The signal contained the recorded hunting calls of every predator species from Earth. Wolves howling, lions roaring, eagles screaming, sharks circling. But more than that, it contained something deeper, the psychological signature of apex predators, announcing their dominance. The effect on the Bloodclaws was immediate and devastating. Their bioships, evolved from predator creatures themselves, responded to the sounds with confusion and fear. Their carefully coordinated attack formation broke apart as individual ships began responding to ancient instincts they did not understand. What are they doing to us? Pack leader Voss shouted over the chaos. Drac realized with growing horror what the humans had done. They had not just studied Bloodclaw technology, they had studied Bloodclaw psychology. The sounds were triggering deep evolutionary responses that overrode conscious control. They are not just hunters. Drac whispered. They are the hunters that even hunters fear. The human fleet moved through the confused bloodclaw formation like sharks through a school of fish. Their weapons were precise, their tactics flawless. They had turned the final battle into what humans did best, a hunt. Within hours it was over. Drac found himself alone on his damaged command ship, surrounded by human vessels. General Ross appeared on his communication screen one final time. "You fought well, War Alpha," the human said with genuine respect. "Your species understands warfare better than any we have encountered." "But not better than yours," Drac replied. "No, not better than ours." Drac straightened his massive frame one last time. "End it, human. You have proven you are the superior predator." General Ross shook his head. "We are not superior, War Alpha. We are simply different. You hunt for conquest and glory. We hunt because it is what we are." The communication ended. Drac closed his eyes and waited for the final strike. In the aftermath, as human ships secured the battlefield, Ambassador Kren watched from the bridge of a council observation vessel. The gentle alien turned to General Ross, who had come aboard to coordinate with the council forces. "General," Kren said, quietly, "what happens now? The Bloodclaws are defeated, but the galaxy has seen what humans can do in war. Many species are afraid." General Ross looked out at the stars, where human ships were already beginning to spread out across the galaxy, hunting down the last remnants of Bloodclaw forces. "Ambassador, for the first time in human history, we have found our place in the universe. We are not builders or artists or philosophers. We are the ones who hunt the hunters. We are the predators that keep other predators in check." He turned to face Kren with those unsettling human eyes. "The galaxy is about to become a much safer place, as long as everyone remembers who the real apex predators are.